Welcome to another episode of The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes, the storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told. And where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors, a clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Marvellous and tickety-boo. Welcome to the clearing of the show that helps you grow. Marvellous. So this is the Good Listening To Show, and I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to have here Stella Taliadoros. That's the most exquisite Greek surname. Taliadoros, you've been passed the golden baton, Stella, by the wonderful Ronell Shaw, the Ivor Novello award-winning composer and musician, and he spoke very, very highly of you indeed, the punchline of which he said he respects your decisions to always do it rather than just talk about it. And indeed, he credits you with helping him to start doing the business side of him being a musician. You're all about community. You're an amazing human being, he says, so you couldn't come highly recommended enough. So Stella Taliadoros, you're my first ever Angelic Reiki practitioner as well.
Woohoo!
Boom and woohoo! So yes, how's morale? What's your story of the day, please?
Story of the day. So, this morning I went to my personal therapy session. So I'm training to be a counsellor. So that's basically where my life is kind of heading right now. But I still have to have my own therapy, which I do on Tuesdays. So I did that this morning. It kind of helped me to set my day, on path, being able to talk about certain things, which I find really important. So yeah, that was my story for today. I had my coffee and I'm ready to go. Enough
coffee in the system. And you have your own, you're all about community and creating space where people feel heard and safe. And is your curator of the 12th house, that's the name of is that related to the 12 steps at all?
No, so basically let me explain. I have a cafe, which is called Winwood. And then opposite that cafe, I set up a community space years ago. And recently, February, I turned it into more of a well-being space. And well-being, but also with a spiritual element. And the 12th house is actually linked to astrology, because in astrology, you have houses. And the 12th house is the house of, in between life and death, the underworld, the mystical things, the deep, the down, getting really into it. And I think it was just very fitting for the space that I wanted to create.
It's very tarot-esque as well, like all the 12 houses and the sort of the visual metaphors of all. And as you say, it's to do with astrology too.
It's just that kind of space where it's kind of like mystical, a bit unknown, discovery, journeys, into the space of your psyche / your spiritual being out of this world. So yeah, it's all of that.
What a great analogy for life itself, the great unknown. I love that. Wonderful. So you're extremely welcome. We're going to be curating you through the Good Listening To Show. There's going to be a clearing, a tree. We're going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How'd you like them apples? There'll be a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's absolutely all to play for. Just a slight googly question, first of all. If people don't have a frame of reference, I know I explained what you do and you've given me some wonderful sort of congruence on what you do. If someone does just find you interesting and say, oh, hello, what do you do? What's your favourite way of avoiding or answering that, Stella?
It's always a difficult one. So what I do, I help support people on their journey of life. That's what I do.
I'm just letting that hang there with a very enigmatic silence. That was really well put and very succinct and clear, if I may say so. So let's get you on the open road then. And by the way, I'm delighted that Ronelle recommended you. So here you are. Welcome to the clearing. So first of all, Stella, what is a clearing like for you? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
So it's usually in the form of a cafe, not my own cafe, because I can't be in that space. So it's usually a cafe, and a particular one that's really helped me is a place called Cafecito Organico in Los Angeles in Echo Park, which I used to visit like twice a year for 6 years. So it was like the place where I'd go when I needed to kind of run away from life. And I would sit in that particular cafe and just kind of like digest life. So that particular place, but when I can't go there, it's just usually a cafe.
And as it's in Echo Park, by the way, you'll see where I'm going here. This invites you to say it again because it's an echo. So what's the name of that exquisite cafe again?
Cafecito Organico.
Is there an echo in here? See what I did there.
No, Cafecito Organico.
It sounds absolutely beautiful. And when were you last there?
So I was there just before COVID. So I haven't been back since, but I do need to go. I'm kind of feeling that calling.
Love that. So here we are. Say it one more time just so I can make sure I've got it right, because it's just exquisite.
Cafecito
Organico.
Organico. Cafecito Organico.
I'm sorry I'm making you say it so much. There is definitely an echo in here. So we're there then, and I'm going to arrive, if I may, with a tree now to shake your tree. It's a bit Waiting for Godot-esque because of my sort of my acting background, as opposed to my acting background, which doesn't make sense at all. So I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. And this is your answers now to the construct of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you've had 5 minutes in the intervening period since we agreed we were going to do this. So I have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and that will be where the squirrels comes in. What are the 2 squirrels of distraction that never fail to distract you, whatever else is going on? And then finally, a quirky or unusual fact about you, Stella Taliadoros, that we couldn't know until you tell us. So over to you to interpret the shaking of the canopy of your tree as you wish.
Yeah, so the 4 things that shaped me. When I was thinking about this, I'm quite like one of those people that goes on their lonesome journeys to kind of figure it all out. And one thing that has shaped me, particularly in the last few years, is my connection to nature. It was a biggie for me. Once I started to kind of invite nature into my life, by going into nature, by kind of understanding it, I did a course in herbalism, like an online course, kind of understanding that we are very similar to plants in our makeup, in the seasons, the things that we need. And that really, really shaped me. Yeah, that shaped who I was. And I'm very much trying to live my life by the seasons and seeing the plants and how they grow as a metaphor for humans, So yeah, that's one of my things that shapes me.
And what's your favourite season of those that we go through in a year?
It's autumn. Maybe because I'm an October baby, but autumn is a time for reflection, and I'm all about reflecting. So it's very much my time, and I feel very comfortable being in that season.
A lot of people use New Year to reflect, to sort of look back, don't they? But I love the fact that it's pre the sort of hibernation period of the winter, but the autumn is your time of reflection as the leaves begin to fall and the season changes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, go on, sorry.
It's the most dramatic of seasons, so I'm completely there with you. And my love of trees, by the way, has informed why I'm shaking your tree. So I love that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like I always think, like now I've tried to shift, the whole new year to like starting in spring, because January is not really the new year. It's just there. We're still in hibernation mode. We shouldn't be expected to like come up with things. The spring for me is very much like all right, now's the time to start thinking about what we're going to do, which we've already reflected from the autumn. We've rested in the winter, ready to go. So living seasonally was a big shift. Yeah.
That's a great first answer to the shapeage. So that's the first thing that shaped you, the seasons. Lovely.
So another thing that shapes me is food. And I only recently realized just how much it shapes me, because I've become more conscious of my mind-body connection. And so when I eat certain foods, I have certain moods. And by kind of like understanding what I'm taking in, knowing what kind of food I want to take, when I go shopping, what am I drawn to? Because if I'm going to pick something with a certain energy that doesn't really resonate with me, I'm not going to feel good. So it would inevitably shape who I am in that day. So food is definitely a big one for me. Yeah, totally.
Lovely. So that's the sort of nomness of really appreciating it and choosing it carefully.
Yeah, choosing what I decide to put into my body, this vessel that carries me, and taking care of myself. And obviously there's times when I don't, and I'm just going off on one, and then I realize, oh, why am I not feeling so good? Oh, maybe it's because I've been eating all of these foods that aren't good for me, making me bloated, bringing me down, low moods. So becoming more conscious of that, because it does have a very big impact on me.
You're definitely living the path of being holistic because you're seasonally influenced, but also then you're being very respectful of your body being the vehicle that carries you. So I completely get that. And you work in the world of therapy and counselling, so that makes complete sense that you're walking the talk, not just talking about it.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Yeah, and you know what? Coming from a background of hospitality as well, and which I've been doing for many years, like I've had my cafe for 9 years, and then before that I worked in my uncle's cafe for 7 years, and my family's Greek Cypriot, and a lot of it's to do, like, hospitality is through food, what we're giving and sharing with other people. And so I've always really kind of thought about, hey, what do I want to share with others? What makes me feel good to share with other people? So I've always, in my cafe, I've always had food that I like and that resonates well with me, because I don't want to be selling something that, I mean, obviously there's times I have to do things that other people may want because it's not all about me. But I want to give people good, wholesome food. And that is a big element of hospitality, which is something that is in me, I think.
Is the signature of the cafe, the Winwood, is it Greek Cypriot then in its fare?
Yeah, so it's a family-run business. So my sister and my parents are all involved. So we have elements of it, like some of the foods that we use are like Cypriot inspired, but also it's just the whole concept of the family and welcoming and the community. It goes back to our roots. Greek Cypriot people, I mean, the majority are always open, doors always open, people coming in. It's all about hospitality, community, family, and that's kind of what we communicate in our space. It's not just about selling a product. It's about, this is a space, an entity in itself, and food is something that we share. Obviously, yes, we sell it, but it's all about the sharing, bringing together of people, sharing ideas. Like, let's take care of you whilst you're here. A little piece of like taking care of, basically.
And whereabouts? It's the Winwood, isn't it? Have I got that right?
So it's called Winwood Art District, which is in Walthamstow.
I'll make a point of coming to visit it. It sounds absolutely exquisite, fantastic. Third shapeage?
Third one is people and friends around me. People that are your friends. There's sometimes that they will bring you down with their moods and whatnot, and vice versa. And so I think it's like important to know, like, for example, if you're going to have people around you and you're going to have some good conversations, like, for example, Renelle, like me and Renelle have the most amazing conversations. Like, it goes on for hours and hours and we can just not stop. And I find that very, valuable to have, because those people help to shape you.
He described you as being a great intellectual spa, by the way. That's one of the things he said about you.
When I listened to what he said, it really touched me, actually, because sometimes you're not really aware of how others perceive you. You're just being you. So yeah, having good people around you, because they do shape you. Like unconsciously, people are going to bring you down if they're going to constantly be bringing energy that's quite low, especially if you're on a high vibration. They're bringing a low vibration. If you're not ready for it, it's going to bring you down and it's going to shape you in that moment. So yeah, people around you, especially friends, because you have almost like this boundary around who you are. And if you let that in, then it's gonna transform what lies within that boundary.
And you're not talking about repelling those that have negative energy. You're talking about being present with them, but being aware to not let it penetrate. And therefore, it's about keeping your own resilience intact.
Yeah, and like knowing how much of certain people that you can have, having your life at a certain time. Like maybe you can only handle like 1 hour with this particular person because you can feel your energy draining. And if you let it happen for too long, then you're gonna leave that situation and you're not gonna be feeling good, and you might be irritated, you might be snappy with your partner, and it might lead to an argument. So it's like it's very important to understand that the people around you do shape who you are, even if it's just a tiny bit. So yeah,
it's like the energy transference. Always loved that analogy of whether human beings are radiators or drains. We all know people that are complete radiators, so you can warm your hands up on, metaphorically or literally. Deep midwinter, if we're talking seasonally. And then those who can suck the very life force out of your being just by being in the same space as them. Absolutely.
And you know what? It's like those people that do suck the energy, they're not always aware of it. Sometimes when they come to someone that like radiates, they feel good. So it's like, okay, I'm going to come to that person because I know that I'm going to speak to them and I'm going to feel good when I leave. So they're not always conscious. Some people are conscious, but a lot of people aren't, and they just gravitate towards you. And it's up to you to put that boundary in place and kind of be like, okay, I've had enough. I've given all the energy that I can give, because otherwise you're going to start taking from my reserve energy, and then I'm not going to have enough of it left.
And somebody recently described the idea of being like an open series of USB ports that people just come and plug in to sort of recharge themselves. And of course, you've got to keep your own boundaries intact.
Totally.
Wonderful. Now the fourth shapeage I think we're on to, if I'm getting my structure right.
Yeah, so the fourth one is environment. And, going back to like the plant analogy, if you're going to plant a plant in a pot that becomes, too small for it, it's never going to be able to grow. So it's about knowing what environment I need to be in to be able to thrive and to be able to let me be who I need to be. Because if I'm keeping myself in environments that are not going to offer growth, then I'm going to stay put. And if I'm feeling, okay, I need to move, I need to transform, but I'm still staying in an environment that doesn't allow that, then it's not going to allow me to be the best version of who I am. And that can be quite difficult, actually, because, that could be a living situation, that could be your home, or I need to change jobs, or I need to move room, or whatever it is. And sometimes it's big decisions. It's not as simple as like, oh, I need to just change where I'm sitting. It's, I need to move house. And what does that look like? What can I afford? Everything around that. So definitely environment.
That's very relatable, by the way. I recently heard an analogy where someone is a sunflower, but every day they're put into a dark cupboard when they go to work. So, of course, that person needs to change their environment. Lovely stuff. So that's the fourth shaping. Now we're going to talk about 3 things that inspire you, Stella. So that's the second part now. So we're on to the 3.
So the first one is music. So whenever I listen to music, I get inspired to create. That could be drawing. It could be movement. I used to dance for many years, and the way that I can connect my body to certain sounds is just like, it helps to kind of release a lot of tension, but also you're kind of creating in that moment. So yeah, music definitely helps inspire my creativity in all different mediums, because I think I'm quite creative, using all different things depending on what I feel like I need to use to express myself.
And was that your connection with Renelle, by the way, the music? Is that how you met?
Do you know what? Quite funnily, right? So I'll quickly tell the story. So Renelle came into my cafe, and this was 9 years ago. So I'm 35. So I'm 34 minus 9, whatever that is, 26, I think I was. And I said to him, did you play guitar? Because it just came to my head. And he was like, yeah, I play bass. And then we realized that he was in a show that my friend invited me to when I was 16. Wow. And I remember him from that show when I was 16, him playing guitar. And then him coming into my cafe 9 years later, or how many years later that was, 10 years later, I remembered him. So I guess it was kind of through music that we kind of connected. But he was a customer, so that was kind of like the next round.
That's a lovely sort of subliminal sort of footprint in your memory bank. I love that. The fact that that person just...
I remembered it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Great. So music being number one, second inspiring?
So the second inspirational thing is when people try to bring me down, it almost inspires me to kind of go the opposite way. And when I was thinking about this, one thought of memory came to mind. I was at school and I was probably like 7 or 6, and I was asked to like give a talk about something. I don't know, get up in front of people and start talking. And the teacher said to me, "Oh, we've chosen you because we think that you're articulate." And I said to him, "What does articulate mean?" And he said, "Oh, well, maybe you're not the right choice for this then." And I remember that. It really made me feel really bad. Didn't make me feel good. And I remember like, since then, I remember being like, well, I'm going to show you that I can be articulate, because I remember looking it up and whatever. And it was just from like that memory came to mind. And, it's all about kind of like not letting things like that bring you down, but using it to inspire you to actually go and get it. So yeah, people bringing me down actually inspires me.
That's very relatable to that lovely Maya Angelou quote about how I rise, or the poem How I Rise. Also, it sounded that was a sort of a slightly cocked up, well-intended teacher who then totally cocked up the second response, because it sounded like they started out with good intentions, but then monumentally cocked it up and stamped on your self-esteem at the time. But
yeah, and I was a child, I was very young, and I think those things do kind of like stick with you.
Yes.
Even though I kind of got upset about it, I am that kind of person that doesn't necessarily dwell on it. I do rise up.
Yes.
So it's good that I can do that.
Lovely.
And then the third one, I very much love deep philosophical chats. I can go well deep about all sorts of things,
I love that. I can go well deep.
Well deep,
Oh, well deep, yes.
Yeah. And because from these conversations, I always feel inspired, like something that like, obviously the other person has to be able to talk on that level. But I always leave inspired, like feeling like I want to put something into action, or something has come to mind that I didn't think about before, which makes me feel like, oh, okay, I want to do this, or I want to go in that direction, or I want to create, so I think, conversation for me is just very inspiring. But like I said, it has to be with people that can meet me at that level. And, sometimes it doesn't have to be at that level, but when I do get there, it's particularly inspiring.
And you've already credited Renelle with being able to sort of, get there with you, and it will go on for hours. And then.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Sometimes I just think, like, where does it come from with us? We can just keep on going and going and going, and we end up talking about everything. And even though we don't know about everything, we can have a viewpoint on certain things, and we challenge each other. And I find that very that inspiring, because at times, and it kind of goes back to the kind of not bringing me down. It's not bringing me down, but it's like making me think. Like there's been times with Renelle where he will challenge me to the point where I'm just like, go away. Like I literally tell him, go away, Renelle, I can't deal with this right now. Because he will say certain things, but it makes me reflect, and then makes me take action based on that, because I'm like, okay, that activated something that activated something within inside of me. And what am I going to do about it? Am I just going to let it bring me down? Or am I going to be like, no, actually, that did activate something inside of me. There's something there with what that person is saying, and I need to act on it.
So if you can surround yourself with conduits that encourage deeper thought, deeper into the well, then that's always a good thing.
Yeah, totally.
Lovely. And then the third inspiring thing?
That was my third. So I had music, bringing me down, and deep philosophical chats.
Cashier number 3, please. Sorry, that was me cocking up the structure there. And now, this is exciting. We're on to squirrels now. So what are your 2 monsters of distraction? What are your squirrels, borrowed from the film Up, that particular reference, where the dog goes, squirrels. So what are your monsters of distraction?
So the first one is flowers. So I could be having a conversation or walking down the street, and then I'm like, oh, that's a nice flower. I'm going to pick that, because I've started making pressed flower art. But even from before that, flowers. It's just like I said, ever since my connection with nature, I'm seeing flowers more. Before, let's say rewind 3 years ago, I didn't even know that trees made flowers. Like, honestly, that's how out of touch I was. But now it's like, so when there's flowers, I'm like, okay, my mind, I can be talking about anything. I'm going straight there. Or like an interesting plant that I've never seen before totally catches my eye. I'm walking straight over to it and I'm touching it. So definitely plants and flowers is one of them.
And I love the fact also you have a coffee shop. So it's wake up, smell the coffee, wake up. Oh, look, the flowers. I love that too. Very sense evoking as well in both regards.
Yeah. And so my second one is when I see people carrying themselves in a like confident way in the way that they dress. I'm very much about, the way people dress and how they look. It's basically showing your soul on the outside. So when I see people carrying who they are in a confident way, like I'm going to wear this and I'm going to rock it, I can't help but just be like, I want to look at this person and I want to stare at everything they're doing, from their shoes to their tattoo to their earring to all the details. Like, I'm very much drawn to that and I can't stop but look.
That's a great squirrel right there. And now a quirky or unusual fact about you that we couldn't possibly know until you tell us.
Well, I mean, you might know a little bit because you can see these tattoos, but one of them was I have 24 tattoos, which I think I have 24. Then actually, no, it's 25. I forgot one. Because I was going to say, and one of them is a paper aeroplane, which I forgot about because it's right there behind my neck.
Okay. So there's yes, I can see it now. And was that tattoo number 1, please? Was that the first one you had done?
It wasn't. There was a period of time that so the cafe is open very close to a tattoo shop, and I became friends with them, and I was going through this. I mean, in reflection now, it was like I don't know, crazy time in my life where I was getting tattoos all the time, and I was like had a stressful shift, and I'm like, I want a tattoo. So I remember just going to the tattoo shop and being like, I want that. My friend was doodling and I just got the paper airplane. But I also there's always stories behind it, how I was feeling at the time. But yeah, the paper airplane was just so random. And
that's more of a random one rather than the story. You just liked the icon and then you went for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like basically this particular person has created an art piece on the front of our shutters. It's like a whale and this like buildings and like in the distance like a town, right? And in his sketchbook, he added a paper aeroplane, but he didn't add it to the shutters. So I was looking through his sketchbook and I saw the image and he didn't add the paper aeroplane. So I'm like, I want that on me. So
the sort of artist installation that's inspired is the shutters are only ever complete if they're shut, and then you're standing there with a paper airplane.
Exactly. I had to complete it. So yeah.
Lovely. So you've said very specifically 24, no 25. Is that the end of your tattoos, or is that just the current count?
And that is the current count. I don't know if I'll get more. Like, a lot of it depends on like my feeling, and I think I've realized that over time, and like why I get them and things like that. So it probably won't be the end. I think I'll probably get some more, but right now there's no plans.
And if I may ask, when was the last time you had one? Just so we can work out, what.
So I think I remember it was the official day of spring, whatever that was.
Oh, so recently.
Yeah, recently I got this like flowers here. My friend does this. She kind of so I got it intertwined with whatever I already had. And I don't usually have much color. So I got that one. I just felt like a bit of color and some flowers, and just so happened to tie in with the first day of spring.
So it does sound like the tally's going to go up if you've just got one done about 3-4 weeks ago. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Wonderful. So we've shaken your tree. Hurrah. Now we stay in the clearing, move away from the tree. And next we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. So when you're at purpose and in flow, Stella Taliadoros, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to reveal to the world?
So I'm happiest when I am creating. And that can be from painting to digital art to making cards. It's about just focusing. Like I did pottery for like a little while, like anything that has to do with bringing the inside out through creation, expression. And that's when I'm the happiest. It can be any different level, but yeah, when I'm just creating.
Wonderful. And does the 12th house give a sort of curation space for that type of activity as well, or is it just a therapeutic center? I'm not saying it's just in anything. I'm just asking.
Do you know what? So for example, yesterday I was using one of the rooms to just paint. So I've started to use it for myself in that. And we also are going to be running loads of workshops. My friend, she's an artist and positive psychologist, and she's going to run a few workshops with art and positive psychology. So yeah, there's definitely room for creation in my space.
And is it a community owned space, or is it your building and your family have it, so that's why you've turned it into your space?
No, so this one, basically I'm running this now. Me and my sister used to run it together. Well, first of all, it was me and a friend, and then it was me and my sister, and now I'm just doing it. So I say community space because it's for the community.
Yes.
So I don't own it, I rent it, but then I rent out the rooms to other people to do their thing. Or I host workshops, or I put on certain things, and I do my Angelic Reiki, and I have a little shop in there, which I'm in a few of the days, so I can have conversations with people when they come in. So yeah, it's just my little space, basically.
Wonderful. And so that's alchemy and gold. Next one on to cake, which is where you get to put it. Here's a cake, please. So do you like cake, first of all, Stella? Obviously, I'm assuming you might, because there's lots of Greek-inspired cake that we all love. But do you like cake?
I do like cake.
Wonderful. So just while we're there, literally talking about a cake, before I give you the metaphor, what type of cake would you like, please?
I would like something lemony and syrupy that may have some sort of icing on top with blueberries.
Very specific. Go you. It shall be yours metaphorically. So you get to put a cherry on your cake now, alongside your blueberries. And this is the final sort of rich, suffused storytelling metaphor, where it's stuff like, what's a favourite inspirational quote that's always given you succor and pulled you towards your future? So do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, so I heard this quote when I was studying counselling, and I think the person that kind of created my course, he has this written on his door. Even though I've never seen it, I've heard it a few times and it just really stuck with me. It's a Picasso quote, and this is what it is: learn the rules like a pro and break them like an artist.
Oh, we like a cheeky bit of Picasso. Fantastic. Just say it one more time. It's beautiful.
So learn the rules like a pro and break them like an artist.
Get in. Love that. Thank you. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So when I was traveling in 2012, I think it was, there was a woman called Emily that was with us. And I remember speaking to her about issues that I was having with a friend of mine. And she said to me, everyone is on their own journey and they're going to go at their own pace. And that was a bit life-changing for me. It actually helped me to see people in a different way. And it kind of was just like the foundations of like how I work with people now, like to see that everyone is on their own journey and it's theirs. And I shouldn't get frustrated when other people are at a different place to where I am, because that's where I'm kind of going when I first spoke to her. So hearing that advice just kind of shifted everything for me.
And by the way, you have also been described again by Rinelle as being very polymathic. So you are sounding like you're doing an awful lot of different stuff, like a portfolio career. So
yeah, totally. Like, because obviously, so I've run a cafe. I have a background in psychology and criminology. I also studied visual anthropology because I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, which I'm kind of getting back into now. And I want to use film as a therapeutic way of expressing yourself, which I'm going to bring back as well. I'm studying counselling, but I also want to do a PhD in some kind of form of therapy, but I don't really know what that is yet.
Yeah.
And I'm also very much interested in philosophy. So there's just a few different like places I want to go. And I'm also an artist and, creator, and I've done some dancing. And so I think I'm not going to be satisfied just going down one path. There's different facets to who I am, and I need to integrate them. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not complete.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And in researching you, I found that wonderful, it's a whole bank of TV screens in what looks like a sort of, almost like a civic dump type area, and it's called I'm Lost Too. Is that part of what informs your work?
Yeah, so the I'm Lost Too is a very interesting one because I was trying to figure out a name for what I do, right? And I've started brands, not started brands, done all these different things. And the I'm Lost Too kind of speaks to the part of me that is an artist, and also speaks to the part of me that is, we're all on this journey. We're all going to face a part of time that we're going to feel a bit lost. And it's almost kind of like we're not alone. We're all here, we're all lost. I'm lost too. And I remember I created these badges that said I'm lost too, and I used to sell them at my cafe and at 12 House, and they sell, like people love buying them. And I remember, and I also use that as my brand for my art. So I've made cards and art pieces under the brand I'm Lost Too. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. Like, I was initially gonna, if I set up like a therapeutic space, but it speaks to like the therapeutic space where it's like encapsulates creativity or like expressive arts in that space. So that's the I'm Lost Too. I'm still kind of figuring it out, hence I'm Lost Too. There's constantly going to be that theme running through, even when I do think I've figured it out. There's always that. So I think the screens was a place called Slab City. I think it's that place. Where wait, was it the screens or was it me filming? I can't remember.
There's screens. I think it's on the Instagram headline. There's a wonderful massive bank of screens that look like they, as you said, where did you say it was? It's almost in the desert somewhere.
Yeah, so there's a place called Slab City in California. So whenever I go to California, I always visit that space, and it's like a place in the desert where a lot of people have migrated to, just kind of living in a lawless town, and they have like an art installation that's run by people that live there, and that is part of it. It's part of this like outdoor art installation of like anything goes. It's super cool. Like, if you're ever there in California, I would definitely recommend going to Slab City.
Great recommendation. So I'm Lost Too makes me think of that expression, we're all just winging it. We're all lost too. And by the way, having met you for the first time, that does sound very authentically a really good, unique, differentiating offer that you should definitely keep plying. I'm Lost Too is a wonderful brand. And the fact that the badges sell is proof of its own power.
It's like, being part of something and not feeling alone on the journey, because I think, we're all going through this journey of life and we all need support. And whatever that looks like, even if it's like wearing a badge, being like, yeah, I'm lost too, but I'm on this journey.
Yes.
And that's what happens.
Lovely. What's the best, what notes, help or advice would you proffer to a younger version of yourself, Stella?
Don't stop dancing.
Absolutely love that. Awesome. I just like an occasional pause to just go, love that. And we're going to ramp up to a cheeky bit of Shakespeare very soon. But now this is the pass the golden baton moment, please. So having experienced this from within in having your own Good Listening To here on the Good Listening To show, stories of distinction or genius, who in your network would you most like to pass the golden baton on to, please, do you think?
So I would like to pass it on to my friend Katie Fodis. And she's someone that I first met many years ago through different circles. And we reconnected, let's say 3 years ago, whilst I was interested in movement therapy. And I remembered that she was interested in it too. So I remember like messaging her, and she kind of reached back to me, and we ended up starting counseling together. So we started our counseling journey. So I think we did 1 year together. We did our second year together, and we reconnected. And she is someone that she's similar to me. She likes doing all sorts of things. She has a background in set design. Like she's super creative. She is also very interested in movement therapy. She's trained to be a movement therapist now, but also all different types of like art and expressive art therapy, embodiment. Super cool person, and she's someone that I can have conversations with, and we used to send each other like half an hour voice messages and listening to the other one. It was like a back and forth, and it was very cathartic to be able to do that with someone. Before I had my own therapist, it was like we were each other's therapists. And she's someone that, even though she's not in my life all the time, she will always be there. And I know that even like, you know, there was a time where I struggled with friendships and relationships and in general, and she stuck by me even during times when I was like, no, you know, don't get too close. She was like, no, I'm going to be here still. And that's one thing that I respect about her. She's very resilient and very strong person. And I think she'll be a really interesting person to speak to. So yeah.
She's called Katie Fodis, did you say? Fodis, I'm assuming.
Fotis. And I think
Otis, sorry.
Actually, wait, she got married. So I think it's changed. So I think it's changed, but I can't remember what her full name is. So
your mission, should you accept it, good luck finding her, and thank you very much. Please pass the golden button. Yeah. And now, inspired by Shakespeare and all the world's stage and all the men and women merely players. By the way, I'm holding up now my complete works of Shakespeare. This is a very authentic prop that is also in the theatre show version of what we do. This is the actual book that I actually went to drama school with. So it's probably not read very much at all, but it's very well thumbed. Thank you. So inspired by all the world's stage and all the men and women merely players, Jaques from As You Like It. How, when all is said and done, Stella Taliadoros, would you most like to be remembered?
I think that I would like to be remembered for contributing to some form of innovative therapeutic process. I don't know how that would look, what that would look like, but I'm very much, you know, I've spoken about this with Renelle actually, like, why do I want that? You know, why do I want to discover something new? And I think it's just like the excitement of, I want to discover something new, or I want to do a new piece of research that's never been done before, and that my name will be on that forever. Yeah.
And if I may, just full circle, I'm lost too as a movement, because you're all about movement and energy and getting stuff done. There's that lovely adage as well, the difference in life between what we want and what we get is what we do. It's the action towards, which I think you're really extolling majestically.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very much a doer. I can't, like, when I feel like I'm not growing, I just don't feel good, and I need to grow, and I need to keep on transforming and moving. I need to move in all different ways, dancing, changing environments, working towards things, learning things. It's constantly, constant transformation. Yeah.
Lovely. So where can we find out more about you on the old interweb? So where can we find out more about you?
Oh, where can you find more about me? That is the question. So I've been thinking about this, and I think I will eventually create my own website for me, because I'm someone that does a million things. But for now, if you want to find my space, the 12th house, that's what I'm kind of most active on, let's say. It's the 12th house, Walthamstow, on Instagram. Or on Instagram, where I'm doing on a side note, I'm doing 100 days of art. And I'm doing that on the I Am Lost 2 Instagram page. So you can follow my journey on I Am Lost 2 on Instagram. And every day I'm posting a new piece of art. I'm currently on day 16, which is something that my friend is doing. I'm like, I really need to do this because it's my journey. Because, art is an expression of your feelings during that day. So you can follow my actual journey on the I Am Lost 2 Instagram.
This is a quick Captain's Log supplemental question, which I forgot to ask you about. You're my first ever Angelic Reiki practitioner. Could I just ask you about that? I'm an intelligent layperson in that regard. So what is Angelic Reiki? Sorry.
So I don't know if you've ever heard of Reiki, but Reiki is like a form of energy channeling, healing, let's say. So the angelic part, and this isn't for everyone, some people are going to think this is very, very woo-woo, is I'm a channel for the angelic realms. So when I'm doing this healing process, the angelic energy from outside comes through me and it heals my client on all different levels. And it can be emotionally, ancestral, you can heal your DNA, it can be physical. And in that Reiki experience, that person will just lay down and almost just enter a daydream, enter that space whilst the healing's going on. And as I mentioned, I'm a channel, so the healing's not coming directly from me. It's coming from the outside realms, places that the majority of us cannot see. That's what it is.
And how much of your therapeutic work is involving that? Because you're training to be a counsellor as well, you were saying.
Yeah. So do you know what? I've been thinking about this because I have these two sides of me, and like I have this very spiritual side of me, which is, this angelic Reiki was very much, that opened me up to a lot of it. And actually counselling was the first thing that opened me up. And I see myself as like a psycho-spiritual practitioner. So I'll bring those two things together. I would love to bring those two things together, possibly because in Angelic Reiki, or in those kind of sessions, you speak to people for about 15 minutes before the actual Reiki session happens. And then afterwards, you speak to people again. So having my counseling skills, being able to hold that space for them on that level, it very much goes hand in hand. And that angelic Reiki space, it almost helps the person, in some cases, enter a space where it's almost like it's meditative. They go on journeys. They may see things that are unconscious to themselves usually. So a lot of things will come out. And to be able to then speak about it, parts of our shadow, let's go Jung, parts of our, things when we're in that state will come out. And to be able to talk about it with that person on different levels, it very much goes hand in hand. So I would love to basically integrate it in the future and create this whole kind of like angelic Reiki, psycho-spiritual experience for my clients if they so choose to do that.
And it's a bit like I'm Lost to The Finding. It's where you come and find yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. I like that. I do like that.
I'm here all week. You're welcome. Lovely. As this has been your moment in the Good Listening To show, Stella, Stories of Distinction and Genius, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I would just like to put out to everyone, just get into nature, and be creative. And everyone has a creative element in them. And I think a lot of the time we feel like we are not able to do that because of restraints that we have around creativity. But it's all about getting the inside out. And the inside out is another thing that Renelle kind of helped me with. It's about expression and expressing that through creativity. Game changer. And then also nature. So get out into nature, go to the park, start touching the plants. And that's what I want to say.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Stella Taliadoros here on The Good Listening To Show. Tune in next week for more stories from the clearing. And also there's a brand new thegoodlisteningtoshow.com website as well. So, thank you very much indeed. And good night. You've been listening to The Good Listening To Show here on UK Health Radio with me, Chris Grimes. Oh, it's my son.
If you've enjoyed the show, then please do tune in next week to listen to more stories from the clearing.
If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, then please do so. There's also a dedicated Facebook group for the show too. You can contact me about the programme, or if you'd be interested in experiencing some personal impact coaching with me, care of my Level Up Your Impact programme, that's chris@secondcurve.uk. On Twitter and Instagram, it's
@ThatChrisGrimes.
So until next time, from me, Chris Grimes, from UK Health Radio, and from Stan,
To your good health.
and goodbye. So, Stella Taliadoros, here you are in the Good Listening To Show clearing. You've just been given a damn good listening. If I could ask for your immediate feedback, what was that like being curated through this structure?
I really enjoyed that structure. I think it's an amazing way to get people to think about themselves, think about those particular questions, things I haven't necessarily ever thought about. So having that structure was very exciting for me. And I love to talk about myself. I really do, because I feel like I do have a lot of stories that can inspire others. So I think doing it in that way was just brilliant. And I love the idea of storytelling. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this time with you.